Is that the same as how African American looks at the word nigger in your interpretation?
It's racist. It's blatantly racist. It is part of a cultural genocide that continues. And we have yet to effectively communicate just how abusive it is and how it allows for institutions to survive. The black culture and American culture, we inherently we, empathy is inherently in our culture. We understand the importance of community and how we treat. You know, the predominant culture does not have that really important character that a human being has. And that's the delineation. And that is why it's so hard for us to get through to them because they don't even have respect for themselves. And we are dealing with a group of people that it's how can you teach them something that for us is like and is important and and for them it's just not on their radar.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully, you can hear me out there. I appreciate you stopping by and joining us. And so, here, let me see if I can get my face shown on here real quick for y'all. All right, there I am. How's everybody doing? How is everyone doing? Hey, Twitchers, all of you YouTubers and those in the Twitterverse, welcome to the Inequality Podcast. I am your host, and I want to say thank you for taking the time out today to join in. I want to say hello to all of my wonderful mods first and introduce you to the people who are going to be taking good care of you today. All right. First, let's look at Sweet Jamaica. Sweet Jamaica is one of my beautiful mods. I love her so much. We got to meet each other in real life recently, and she's such a sweet, sweet person, which is why Sweet Jamaica, right? And then we have Jazzy Mimi, who I also got to meet in real life, and I enjoyed hanging out with her, walking to the store, having some fun. We got a chance to get to know each other really well when we were at the Ohio meetup. So Jazzy Mimi is another mod of mine. And then last but definitely not least is Rush in the Flesh. She is my favorite only because she's my daughter. I feel like I have to say that. No, I don't have to. I want to because she is a really great, great young lady. And so between all three of my wonderful mods, they are going to take really, really good care of you. Please, please feel free to engage one another in the chat. My moderators will take good care of you. We want you to contribute to the conversation. That's the great thing about the Twitch world, right? We get a chance to talk to each other in a very special way. So please contribute to the conversation, ask questions, simply highlight your comment or your question, and I'll be sure to include your message in this conversation and get answers for you. So, mods, if you see something that I should point out, please just highlight that message for me so we can make sure everyone's comments and questions are addressed today. And so I also want to, before we bring Mr. Terrill into the picture, just say hi to all of y'all who are here today. So thank you for coming in. I really appreciate you. First of all, spiritual thought leader. She is probably my biggest champion. Just the most special person that I've met in a long time. If you are not following Spiritual Thought Leader, please click on her name and follow her. She will start your day off, not only in a funny way, but in a very serious way. She keeps us on top of exactly what we are doing in this world, what's happening, what's going on while we've slept, slumbered, slept, and slobbered. Let me make sure I get it right. But she makes sure that she takes really good care of her flock as well. So thank you, spiritual thought leader, for joining in this morning. I really appreciate you. And one other person, I haven't seen the Rebel in the chat for a while. Doesn't mean that she's not here supporting. But if you ever see like the beginning, that very last clip that I show about inequality that really kind of talks about what the show is about, the Rebel Inc. put that together for me. And I don't know that I have ever adequately thanked her enough for doing that for me. But I think about her every time we have this show. And so I don't know if she's lurking, but the Rebel Inc., thank you very much. I appreciate you. We have Twitch is our radio in the house and Sweet Jamaica, of course. Thank you so much for you guys coming out. And Mighty Mouse, the first time chat. Thank you so much, Mighty Mouse, for joining us. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. Twitch is our radio. Again, I just want to say thank you for everyone. The beginnings of this show have been rocky, as you guys all know. And I just want to make sure that y'all recognize how better things are getting. And I also want to say that I want to make sure that we involve everyone who's in the chat who wants to be involved. So we are doing that for real. All right, so let's go ahead and bring Mr. Terrill on in here. And then that way I can talk about him while he's looking at me. Mr. Terrill, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, sister. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so nice to have you here with me I appreciate you doing this. But I feel like this is probably going to be more of just a conversation between two old friends than an interview for what is going to be a really important topic to our community and to us as individuals. So again, thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me. I'm happy and excited to be here.
All right, turn the music down a little bit. Someone told me, so I'm gonna get this music down. Thank you. I always appreciate everyone's help. And I took my ear out before I really got a chance to hear what was going on. So let me put it back in real quick while I read to you guys the wonderful work that Tyrone does. And then also I want to just back up too, because as you know, this is National Black Business Month. And every week I've highlighted another Black business. And this week I decided to let everyone know about our Black press, because the media has really been pissing me off lately. I don't know about everybody else. But then you have to just recognize what the media was even created for, right? That mainstream media, they're really not worried about what Black people are doing, but Black media does. So we've got the NNPA, the National Newspaper Publishers Association. They're a trade association of more than 200 Black-owned community newspapers from around the United States. Since its founding 79 years ago, the NNPA has consistently been the voice for the Black community and an incubator for news that makes history and impacts our country. As the largest and most influential Black-owned media source in America, they deliver the news, information, and commentary to over 20 million people each week. Now, of course, most of the readers are Black. The median age is about 25 to 35 years old. 40% of those people are married. And the median income is $35,500 to about $45,000 a year. And I only point that out because Black people have a $1.3 trillion buying power, right, Tyrone? $1.3 trillion spending that we do. And if our median income is $35,500 to $45,000, to me, that just says that we are spending pretty much everything that we make. And I want to make sure that I just point that out and leave that there for you guys because it's important. We also have Black Press USA. They're the voice of the Black community. And then the African American Registry, which is also up there in the frozen tundra with my friend Tyrone. The African American Registry inspires the young minds of our future. They are a nonprofit organization with the most comprehensive online database resource of African American heritage in the world. So those videos that you saw at the beginning of this podcast were from the African American Registry, and I encourage you to go and spend some time there. Their mission is inspiring the young minds of their future. Their method is through teacher preparation, technology, and youth programs. Their goal is curriculum reform. I'm so behind that. And giving youth a guided voice. They have a podcast that you can listen to. Very interesting information. They like to enhance existing text articles in the website, support the oral traditions that are the trademark of Black people. So I just wanted to take a minute, point that out. And if you know, as you know, in the chat, you'll see all of this stuff, right? I make sure that you have all the information that I talk about in this podcast. Even the things that Brother Terrill has shared with me, you'll find that in the chat. And if you're on YouTube, all of this information is going to be in the description for you as well, with live links to everything. All right. So again, I'm Twana's Twitch. This is the Inequality Podcast, that space between inequality, where we aim to be that space. Our mission is to provide the space to learn, grow, shift perspective, share ideas, learn from one another. And that is also learning from Brother Terrill, who has been involved in the intervention and prevention of individual group gang violence in the community since 1990, when he and Brother Spike Moss worked together to create United for Peace, to bring together the 9 gang leaders to work towards peace in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So I want to take a break here real quick, Mr. Terrill, because this is how we met.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember those days?
No, remind me.
I have to remind you.
What was the question? How did we meet?
Do you remember how we met?
No, I don't.
That's okay. I'm gonna remind you.
Yeah.
So when I first got to Minneapolis, the 2 things that you and Spike were working on were Lawrence Miles. Remember the 15-year-old kid that got shot in the back by the cops because he had a BB gun and they couldn't tell the difference?
Yes.
And Andre, was it Andre Madison?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's another one. Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like that was the biggest introduction to gang members and the community that I had. That was like jump in the deep end, right? Because this young man who was, I guess, a known drug dealer in the community, I didn't know that because I was new.
Mm-hmm.
But the police went, busted through his house, shot. How many times did they shoot? I mean, how many bullets went into this man's house? I can't even remember. It was
No, it was numerous. I don't remember either because there's been so many. But yeah, you're right. That was one of the big ones way back. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the police, he was shot. I think him and his girlfriend were shot. But the community did not get behind him because he was a known drug dealer. Not to me, not understanding that he still had rights because it was the wrong house that they went into.
Mm-hmm.
It was the wrong house. So I always thought that was a very interesting case.
Unfortunately, yeah, there's too many of them, particularly in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Um, per capita, we're probably one of the highest places in America with shootings. So, but it's been going on way too long, way too long.
Yeah, I got there in 1995 and
Oh,
that
okay.
was happening. And then we just fast forward to today, George Floyd,
Mhm.
and since George Floyd, right?
Yes. Well, we've had what we call 5 horrific murders, which is, of course, George Floyd, Philando Castile, Dante Wright, Boogie Winston, and Jamar Clark. Um, and the both cities were almost burned to the ground with millions and millions of dollars of damage. But the one thing I say all the time, as horrific as those 5 murders are, uh, we've had 531 black on black murders in the same time frame, and we didn't set a trash can on fire. And so, from a 2-year-old to a 3-year-old to a 5-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, and you could almost pick any number in the age group, and somebody's been murdered out of that 531. So, the police things are terrible, absolutely terrible. Um, Something we have to change. I think we've made great strides, particularly locally, in police transformation, police accountability. But I have a greater concern about the 531. Um, I was just at a funeral on Tuesday of a 26-year-old young man. His dad, his 2 brothers were all there with guns, um, talking about the get back, that they got to use the get back. And I'm talking to the dad. Your 26-year-old with 4 children is laying in a coffin. He's been dead since May 4th. The funeral was Tuesday.
Wow.
You're right. So where were all your gang buddies and folks that couldn't even come up with $1,100 for a cremation or a cardboard, what we call up here the cardboard casket? And so, as a community, we have so much work to do. And again, we have a lot of work to do with police transformation, transparency, accountability, but we've got to get back to us. If
Yes.
we don't start loving us. And I was just in Target this morning, and a lady stopped me and said, "What are we going to do?" And if we don't go back to loving us as a community, because none of these children, and I call them children, young men, young women, are born with a pistol in their hand. They don't come out of their mother's womb saying, "Give me a pistol."
Yeah.
But they are born into an environment and a culture that they never had a chance from birth. And my children often ask me, "Dad, are you surprised how well we do?" I said, no, y'all supposed to do well. Matter of fact, y'all should be doing better than you are. But flip-flop my children and put them in the cultural environment of some other children and give me those children, you've got different results on both sides. So,
Absolutely.
so it's easy for us sometimes to look at this gang violence stuff through our lens. These young people are angry from second, third grade. I was in a school 2 months ago, and the principal told a second grader to stop playing in the hall and go back to class. He told her "F you," and he told her, "Don't make me go home and get it." Now, if he's
What?
8 years old,
What?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go.
No, no, I'm in shock. That
Well,
shocks me.
it happens every day here, all day long. Um, and the teacher said the next day when he came to school with his backpack, she said she actually got nervous. The principal got nervous when she saw him walking toward her. He's
Yeah.
8 years old. But the first teacher still is the mother, the father, the grandmother, somebody. And saying our children cannot learn is not true. If they can do every dance, pick up a video game and play that, they know every cuss word. So it's what's being learned at home. It's a learned behavior. So the most important years in our community right now is 0 to 6. If you don't
Yes.
invest in your child from 0 to 6, and some people say, well, it's not just financial. If you love a child enough, he'll never know he's poor. If you love him enough, if you love her enough. And so as a Black community in particular, because locally, over 75% of our homicides are Black on Black. 75% of our shootings are Black on Black. 90% male.
Yes.
And so if we, I have a saying in St. Paul that don't talk about saving the city of St. Paul. Can you save your block?
Right. Save
You know,
yourself first.
you know everybody on your block, meaning that you know their children, you know their first name, middle name, their date of birth, you know the home phone number, cell number.
Wow.
And then we tell people here once or twice a year, block off your block and basically have a large block potluck where everybody gets to know each other. Crime stats show that if your house is broken into, it's somebody that lives within 4 blocks of your house. 4 blocks.
Okay.
And most people think, well, somebody that drove 15 miles, picked out your house, and say, I want to rob it. No,
That's not the way it works.
They've seen your garage up. They've seen you buy a new TV and put in your trash thing when you take it out. So you advertise what's going on. But until we, as a community, decide to help our community, these violent crimes are going to continue. There's no saying that we're downriver taking the babies out of the river. We need to go upstream and see who's putting them in. And
I
so
love that. Say that again.
There's an old saying that we go downstream, we're pulling the babies out of the river. But we don't go upstream and see who's putting them in. And we're the ones putting them in. We are the ones that continually put our children in that river. I was in court 2 months ago. Judge asked me to come to court. A young man stands up and the judge says to him, son, you have anything to say before I sentence you? He said, Judge, please don't. I have a baby coming. He's 15. Judgedavidson says to him, is this your first child? He said, no. I've got 5 other children. 15. By 5 different girls. So how's he going to be a father? not a sperm donor, how's he going to be a father?
How, I don't know how he's going to be. Someone's going to have to show him how to be a father. And he probably, my guess is he didn't even have a father to show him how to be a father.
You're 100% right, sister. So his 5 children.
And these are the things, yeah, these are the things that are going on in our communities. And I feel like a lot of us are so far removed. And I always want to make sure that people understand that I put myself in that category too. Like, as Black people, we move away. Like, when we make it, we move out of the neighborhood, and we don't really do much to go back to see what's going on, even though our children really are our future, no matter where they live. And so that's one of the things I like about this podcast is we get the opportunity to shine a light on it, right? So if you are far removed, hopefully we're bringing people on here that are able to show you a little bit more about what we're missing and entice you and ignite you to do something to change what's going on in our Black communities, even if you don't live there.
And I tell folks, no matter where you live, make an investment in the community. Not just financial. Everybody thinks, well, I don't have any money. It's not always about money. My good friend, Brother Spike, who you mentioned earlier, says all the time, if men will stand up, little boys will sit down. And men are important not just for little boys, but for little girls as well. Because if a girl sees a respectful, responsible man in the house being respectful to her mother, then that's what she's going to want. If she sees a man who's not treating her mother good, that's what she learns, then she looks at that. If the boy sees his mother being mistreated, but still staying with that man, boys think that's okay. I had a little boy tell me at Harvest Prep in Minneapolis that his dad told him if a girl hits him, the first one is free. The second one she's got to pay. He's telling this to his son. The first one is free. The second one she must pay. Because he hit a little girl on the playground, and we're saying, well, son, why'd you hit the little girl? He said, well, my dad told me the first one's free, the second one she pays. And so if men don't take their rightful place, and too many brothers get into this ego thing of, well, she's not with me no more. I'm paying $100 a month child support. That's all I'm going to do. And I told a brother in the class, I said, brother, $100? That won't even buy gas for the month.
Right.
And you talking about you taking care of your seed, which I hate when they use that term, their seed. But your seed won't grow without you being involved in his life. I tell brothers all the time, you can divorce the woman, you can leave the woman, but you don't divorce or leave the children.
Yeah.
You can be more involved with the children. Because if you don't, then we're going to have the same stuff we got going on right now, where these young people need guidance and they're not getting it. And you can't blame everybody, quick to blame it on the teachers. My God, if I hear that one more time about the teachers.
Right.
Teachers only want to teach. They don't want to be social workers. They don't want to be parents. And even when a teacher says, I love my children. No, you don't. That's not your job.
It's not your job. Absolutely.
Your job is to educate my child, be good to my child, don't disrespect my child. It's my job to love and nurture. And I understand teachers like their children, but I'm saying focus on what I need you to do. But we have to make their job easy.
Yeah.
By preparing our children to come to school. I'm in my barbershop 2 weeks ago, and a little kid walks in, probably 6 years old, both ears pierced, a chain so big he could hardly hold his head up. But his daddy had the same thing on.
Because that's what's important.
That's what's important.
Because that's what's important. I'm going to interrupt you here
Yeah.
because we are now like so deep into the conversation, but we have not taken the time to get to know you a little bit yet.
Oh, okay.
And plus, I wanted to just go back. There was a question when you were talking about that 8-year-old that told the teacher "F you." There was a question. What are the parents doing and saying about this?
Most of the time, and that's a great question. If you and the parent was called, right? The mother said to the principal, "B, what'd you say to my son?"
So she must have said something to him to get that kind of response.
From the boy?
Yeah, that's what the parent is saying. Like, what did you say to my son?
Right. No, he's in the hallway clowning where he wasn't supposed to be. He's supposed to be in class. The principal tells him to go back to class. But if he'll tell her, F you, he didn't get that at school.
No.
He got that at home.
Yeah.
And when the mama was called, B, what did you say to my son? And the last part she said to the principal, don't make me come up there.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny. I'm laughing, but I'm almost on the verge of tears because when we first moved to Minneapolis all those years ago, and I took my daughter, who's in the chat by the way, Tyrone. Say hi to Marisha.
Hi, Marisha. How you doing, sister?
The first day that I took her to school, there was a kid in the principal's office. He was 5 years old. He was a kindergartner, just like her, who was trying to get back into school. He had been suspended. Mm-hmm. And I just remember, I'm like, wait, what? We're suspending kindergartners? Like, what could he have possibly done to get suspended as a kindergartner? I had no concept.
Right. And why was he being suspended? You didn't ever find out?
No, never knew. But he's a dear friend of my kids to this day. Because, that's one of the great things about Minneapolis and St. Paul is the community is so, they think they're a big city, but they're really not. So, my kids have grown up with their same friends forever and have also lost friends to gang violence. I never had that happen to me. So the fact that my kids had friends who were killed at 15, 16, 17, that was a big burden. I felt to me like, how are they gonna jump back from that? How do you rebound from something like that?
We rebound from it because it's almost like when you talk about watching the television, it's so common in the Black community. It's like watching sports, the weather, the news, because folks don't get upset when they hear on TV a Black child, 15, 16, 17 got shot. We've gotten comfortable that we expect it. But again, if a police officer shoots one of our kids, thousands of people will come out. Ben Crump and Al Sharpton will show up. We're getting ready to ban them from Twin Cities. We don't want them here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ben Crump has taken about $30 million from the city and ain't left a dollar. And you talk about this being National Black Business Month. He doesn't even partner with a Black law firm here. He partners with a white firm. So he don't even leave no money here.
That's disappointing.
Right.
That's it. There's some pretty good Black-owned law firms there. It's not like there's not an option for him.
There's numerous firms here that he could use. But this whole thing really still gets back to us. If we don't start loving us, and one of our pastors here, Reverend Thomas, says all the time, Black lives will matter when Black lives matter to Black people.
That's a better t-shirt. I like that. Black lives will matter when Black lives matter to Black people.
When we get just as upset and will set the city on fire when we shoot a 3-year-old kid. We had a little boy named Mays, Tyrone Mays, who got shot 10 years ago. And his mother was at a rally this year and said, my son would be going into the 8th grade. I should be buying his 8th grade clothes to go to school. I should be buying his books, you know what I'm talking about? Celebrating him. And nobody still came forward, even though everybody in the Black community knows who killed every baby. But we have that snitch rule. We can't snitch. We cannot do that. But this mother has an open wound that doesn't have any chance to heal until she has some understanding of my 3-year-old being killed. And so, but until we meaning all of us as Black people, stop it. Otherwise, it's gonna keep. We're on pace we're like 75, 80 murders already. We're gonna break the record in both cities this year.
That's crazy.
Um,
That's crazy to me, especially with everything that's going on. We definitely need to switch some perspectives around here. So again, let me just stop here for a minute. I want to go back and just acknowledge some of the people who've come in the room. Tall Pumps, thank you for being here. You're the second person that's asked if Twitch is twitching today. So I'm going to assume that Twitch is twitching today because you're not the only one that's asked that question. But hopefully you guys are still able to follow the conversation. It's not too bad. Let me know if there's anything that I need to do on my end to make the experience a little bit better for y'all. But thank you so much, Tall Pumps, for coming in the room. I really appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions or comments that you want to share, that you want to ask Tyrone, please make sure you just highlight it, put it in the chat for us, and we'll make sure that we get right to it. So Tyrone, let's just back up a minute here. So you can tell us a little bit about yourself, about what your journey to advocacy has been like there in the Twin Cities. Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Well, I mean, it kind of started from my family, who's originally from Montgomery, Alabama. Moved later on in life to Kansas City, and it was the night that Dr. King got killed on April 4th, 1968. At when it came on our television was 8:01 p.m. and Walter Cronkite, the old legendary newscaster for CBS, came on and he was crying, and I knew right away Dr. King was dead without him even saying it. And he made the announcement that he'd been killed in Memphis, and my mother said I stepped in front of the television for almost 2 hours crying. And I told her, someday I'm going to do his work, Mother. I'm going. And my mother said, no. Because in her mind, civil rights workers get killed. But so fast forward, becoming a Gopher basketball recruit many years ago and playing basketball, went to pro camp, got cut, had an opportunity to go to Belgium for $250,000 for 6 months. And I played in a little pickup all-star game at the Jimmy Lee Rec Center in St. Paul.
Yeah.
And met a guy named Bill Wilson, who at that time was the first Black council member and also the commissioner at that time of the Minnesota Human Rights Department.
Yes.
And we were just talking after the game, and he asked me what I was getting ready to do. I said, well, I'm leaving in 2 weeks to go to Belgium. I said, what do you do? He said, I'm the commissioner of human rights. And I said, man, I wish I could work for you. He said, I have a job open. And I said, how much does it pay? He said, $18,500. 250,000, 18,500. I took the 18.5.
Of course you did.
I took the 18.5. And that's where it started for me in terms of in the Twin Cities. And I don't regret a day or a second of it because, I kept my promise to do that work. And actually retired from government after 14 years as St. Paul's Human Rights Commissioner. But during that period of time, my good friend Spike and I have always done this gang intervention work, which we started in 1990 with United for Peace. Because at that time, there were only 9 real gangs in the Twin Cities, real organized gangs. Today, we have almost 200. And some of them have 5 people. Some have 50, some have 100. But the majority of them are not doing anything in terms of major dope, prostitution, trade. They're just shooting. If we could get rid of cell phones, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, because when I was a kid, if I had a fight with somebody, we'd be playing 2 days later. But now you put it on Facebook and 3,000 people say, man, he's punking you. He's daring you to come there. So cell phones play a major role in the homicides nationwide. But they also play a major role in arrest. Because most people think you can delete it. Everybody that's listening, there's no such thing as delete. It's off your phone.
It's in the cloud somewhere.
It's in that cloud. And people always say, well, this is a tracking device. They can find you anytime they want, where you've been, based on your cell phone.
Yep.
Even if you turn it off.
Even if you turn it off. They can turn it back on so they can find you.
That's right. And so so that's kind of been the journey. I mean, I've want to save some of these children. I call them children because that's what they are to me. But I've gone to 100 funerals of young. I stopped going about 8-9 years ago. I don't go to funerals anymore. Of these young, so when we reach 100, I stopped. I did go to 2 last year because the young people said that if the police shoot somebody, they call it a celebrity funeral. The mayors come. We got people like Kevin Hart coming here for a funeral. You know what I'm talking about?
Kevin Hart's been there for a funeral?
Oh, the celebrities that came for George Floyd, T.I., you name it. All of them were here.
I didn't even see that. Like, there are just some things I choose to not see. And I didn't even want to see that.
I don't know if you remember Reg Chapman, a reporter.
Of course I do. I just saw him. He just did I saw him watched a video that he did about gang violence yesterday and how it's, I didn't even realize that there were like Native American gangs. It's like I've learned so much just doing the research here.
There are, but they're not, again, there's probably 2, 3 at max, but they're not doing anywhere near the level of violence, shootings. The Asian gangs are doing more prostitution. That's the white motorcycle gangs, more meth.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. We're still in 600 cars a year, just a joyride. We're not stripping them down. We're not selling them. We just drive them and crash them. We've had 8 children die in the past year from 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds who can't drive a car. They hit a tree. Nobody got a seatbelt on.
Yeah.
People being shot through moon rules, sun rules. And so it's an epidemic in our community. But even Dave Chappelle, right? Who's a good friend, close friend of Reg. Reg probably don't want me telling the world that, but him and Dave are really good friends. And Dave said, and we were doing a 3-way conversation. Dave said, I'm not going to come to the funeral, but I want to come later on after it's over. And he's done that. He came and walked 38 in Chicago and George Floyd Square. But he said, I'm not going to hijack a funeral because of my celebrity status.
Yeah.
Spike Lee was just there probably 4 weeks ago, who came later on.
Yeah.
But the kids call them celebrity funerals. So the kids start reaching out to us when a young man got killed. The mom said, I want community leaders to come to my son's funeral. So Spike, myself, the others, we went to that funeral. But the kids are right. We can't. The kids, they can't even get into funerals now
That's
because
crazy.
the senators and the mayors and the governor and all those folks want to be up on stage because it's more political than caring about what happened to that young man.
Yeah.
And so, but that's been kind of my deal. You know, I have 4 children, 3 grandchildren who take up, particularly the grandchildren, take up a lot of time. But it's just really about what can be my footprint into some of this violence. I had a little young man, 14, who's in one of my groups at Humboldt High School, call me and said his 12-year-old cousin has a gun. And would I come talk to him? I go talk to the little guy. I ask him why he got a gun. I say, what gang are you in? He said, I'm not in the gang. I say, son, why do you have a gun? He said, a man that my mom was a junkie, he said. And a man came in my sister's room butt naked and was trying to touch her. So I made her come and get in the bed behind me. And the next day I bought a gun for $50. And he said, I'm going to shoot him if he tries to touch my sister. 12 years old.
Wow.
That his mama, and matter of fact, when I came to his house, she was so high, she was door cracked open, butt naked, laying on the bed. Didn't even know I was in the house.
So he's like the man of the house, and he felt like he needed a gun to protect his sister. It
Right.
doesn't really sound to protect his family.
And so, you know, we made calls to child protection, and they took him out, and the uncle actually has them now. But this young man was only trying to protect his sister from being raped. And the mama
Wow.
said, oh, he came in the wrong room. And so I go back to what I said early on. When you raise a child in that kind of culture, that kind of environment, and somebody saw it on television, 12-year-old shoots man, right? Everything would have been to the negative, not to him as a young boy forced to protect his sister. And
Wow.
so we have to take back our community. If we don't do that,
Yeah. Absolutely.
we'll have homicides for the next 30 years. For the next 30 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my goodness. There's so much to unpack here. Let me just go back again and let everyone know that we really appreciate you being here, especially on a Saturday. I always appreciate people when they come on a Saturday. I neglected to say hey to one of my favorite people in the whole world, Just Jen. Thank you so much for coming through and hanging out with us. I appreciate you. And we have a first-time chatter. Someone is visiting us from Sweden, Terrill. Now, if I'm not saying that right, please make sure you correct me. But Terrill, thank you for coming and welcome to Inequality all the way over there in Sweden. We appreciate you. Again, if you have any questions, any comments that you want to add to the conversation, please just highlight them. And mods, if you see, something that I should be sure that we cover, just go back and copy and highlight. So I make sure that we enter that into the conversation, because this is definitely a good conversation. And if you have any questions at all, Tyrone is the person to ask because he is so knowledgeable in this space. And hey, LaShawn, what's up? How you doing? Welcome in. All right, so let's talk just a little bit, Tyrone, about the history of gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I think about gangs in America, they weren't black gangs, right?
There's always been, if you go back to the history of gangs, there's always been gangs, Irish gangs. For example, Chicago annually has about 500 murders a year. Well, in the 1909, 1910 era, the Italian gang were killing 1,100 a year.
Wow.
So gangs are not new, but the culture and respect levels different. In those gangs, you had rules. You never kill a man at home. You never kill him with his family. You don't kill him on Sunday. Any other time, barbershop, grocery store, uh, everything else was good. So,
Everything else is free game.
And even the games when we did United for Peace in 1990, there was structure. You know, where you had a marketing department, they'd bring a laptop. Their head would bring a laptop to a meeting. Okay, we have a defense team. We have, everybody has a role. And if the head of the gang said, so we did the first of 10 gang summits. And the gang summit in St. Paul, when the 9 gang leaders said no violence for that 4 days, there wasn't even one shooting. Total shutdown. And we did gang summits in LA, Chicago, Kansas City, Cleveland, DC, St. Louis. And we actually had a chance because it was in Bloomington, Minnesota, in the hotel at Mr. Louis Farrakhan, that after our gang summit here, which almost 10,000 people attended, that Mr. Farrakhan said to me and Spike, if you can bring 10,000 people to St. Paul, I'm going to bring 1 million black men to DC. So the Million Man March actually was born out of our gang summits. And we had a chance then, because the Holy Day was what we call the Holy Day of Atonement. That was the Million Man March, for the black man to atone for not being responsible fathers, responsible husbands, responsible men, and to go back to your community and be responsible. And black men have not been responsible. Not all, but too many. Too many have not been responsible, and the excuses that they give. She's no longer my woman. I ain't paying. I ain't doing nothing with that kid. Or I don't have time. Or I got 3 other kids. And but this will continue to happen. I'm in Target 2-3 months ago. A little boy reaches up and grabs a candy bar and puts it on the conveyor belt for his mother. She said, "You little MF, put it back." He said, "F you." I say, "Sister, come on, don't do that." She told me I should mind my MF business. I said, "Well, sister, this is my business."
Yes.
But what was happening, and I noticed what was really happening with her, she had 2 $20 bills in her hand. When he put that candy bar up there, it took it to $41 and something. So that's what she really was upset about. And a white guy behind me starts laughing. Of course, I had choice words for him.
Well, yes.
That I can't even say on air. But I finally said to the sister, put everything on the conveyor belt. She was buying no garbage. She was buying Pampers, orange juice. She was getting stuff that family needed. And it came like $58 or something. But it was the best $58 I've ever spent. Because the little boy got his candy bar. She had the pressure relieved of, think about it. And I've been blessed. I have never had to go to the store. And I've got $40. And I've got to watch them ring up everything to make sure I don't get over that amount.
Yeah.
And
I've been there.
And that's what she was doing.
You blessed her. You blessed her life that day.
Actually, though, sister, I blessed mine. I got 10 times,
That's how it works. If we just tap into that, like if we all just know that what we put out, we're going to give back. I mean, that's what we learn in church, right? That's what tithing is. They just teach us that the only way you're going to get a return on your money is if you give it to your pastor. But that's not true. Tithing comes in all ways. What you give out is what you're getting back. And it does not have to be to your church or your pastor for it to come back to you, because that's what giving and service is all about. And you blessed that woman that day, because not only did you make sure that she had everything that she needed, but she still had the $40 in her pocket to do something else with that.
That's right. That's right. And so we all have to give back. And when we don't give back, that's why I said when you adopt your block, if it's a 15-year-old with a baby, become her friend first. It's what I call a deposit relationship, like your bank account. If you don't make deposits, you can't make withdrawals. So with a 15-year-old little girl, if she doesn't have help with that baby, make deposits in that relationship till she finally trusts you enough for you to be able to mentor her and help her become a mother. Because if you don't, when that same little boy, when he turns 8, 9, 10 years old, or 15 and does something to your house, you're going to be upset and going to call the police, but you're not going to look back on. You could have made a deposit in his life.
Absolutely.
That could have changed it. And
absolutely,
we don't do enough of that in terms of the deposit relationship. As part of our program, Project Safe Neighborhoods, what we try to get the boys to do and the young girls. And even though the boys do most of the shooting, the majority of it, 95%, the girls are behind 95% of the shootings. Because they want to sleep with this gang member, that gang member, or they put stuff on Facebook. So girls are heavily involved. They buy guns, they rent apartments, you name it. So they don't think it's just boys or young men. And if you want to, the worst fights you ever can see is girls fighting.
Yes, I remember, because, I have a girl that was, I won't say she was about that life when she was growing up, but she knew about that life when she was growing up. So, yes.
And so we have to take a holistic approach to this. But if we don't change the dynamics in the home, because what we try to do get the young men is what we call the 60-second rule. Okay. And with that, can you take 60 seconds and think about it? And you may only need 15 of that 60. Do I really pull that trigger? Because once you pull that trigger, your life has changed forever.
Yeah.
And a lot of people into this reparations and circle business, and it can work on certain crimes. There is no restoration for murder. You can't restore that. You can't repair that. Well, I ask God to forgive you, possibly. So when you make that decision to take that gun and take somebody's life because they bumped into you, they disrespected
on your
you.
shoes.
Right. It is to a point in our community where we have to stop it. And we all, and maybe you don't, but I have it in my family.
Yeah.
And so we have to be the change agent. The police not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
They're not. We have to stop, as Black people, we have to stop expecting other people to have our backs, because clearly they don't. And we have to get to the realization that we have to have each other's back. I know I have this conversation with my dad a lot. He's like, oh, we can't always, it can't always be a Black thing, or you're going to turn people off. I'm like, you know what? I don't care about turning people off anymore. This is a Black thing. And let's just call it that. Because that's what it is.
People get on me about that. Brother, can you talk something besides Black? I would like to say the indigenous people are doing the murders. The Latinos are doing the murders. The Asian community is doing the murders. White community is doing it. They're not. They're not. If we remove black on black shootings in St. Paul and Minneapolis, it would be probably a $1 billion industry loss. From the judges to the prosecutors to the investigators to the police officers, everybody's budget gets increased. St. Paul just got $10 million from the United States government just to do gang intervention work.
But they're not even wanting to end it because, like
Right.
you said, it's job security. So why are they even trying? Like, why are you even acting like you want to make a difference? And one of the things that I feel about gangs, and let's talk it like the last thing I want to talk about as far as like the history of gangs in America, because I did some good research on that and how gangs started. And I think that the difference to me between our kids today that are gang banging is that they don't really have, there's no end to this. There's no path to a different life for them. And I feel like the other gangs in this country used the wealth that they got, the money that they got to establish family businesses. And then that's what took over in their families. So they went from gangsters to business owners and homeowners and ownership. And we seem to just want to have a fancy charger or have good jewelry or have nice shoes. Like that's the end game for gang banging with Black people, instead of figuring out a way to improve your neighborhood, improve your family, establish businesses, become owners, business owners. To me, that's the difference between the gangs of old and what our kids are doing today. Am I far off?
No, a good example is George Floyd Square, right?
Yeah.
Most people know around the world that Minneapolis almost burned to the ground, right? What should have been the first thing to burn?
Cup Foods.
Didn't even get a broken window.
Didn't break a window. This is the only thing that was still there.
Cup Foods was not touched. Was not.
I don't even understand that.
If you think long and hard about it, you'd understand it. Cup Foods is well protected.
Well protected.
Not even a brick.
I've got goosebumps about that right now because my daughter, you know, I spent a lot of time there earlier this year, and she doesn't live far from George Floyd Square. So I was able to look at the community, and everything looks new, and you can tell there's a lot of money being infused in that neighborhood. But all I want to know is, all right, so are these Black-owned businesses here?
No, some are. Some of the smaller ones, from 37th in Chicago up to about 39th. There's some two or three businesses, but nowhere near the number of Black-owned businesses that were impacted by George Floyd being closed, you know, the murder, and businesses closing. You burn the Target down, you burn the precinct down, and numerous businesses suffered that are Black-owned. We have to put signs in their door. Please don't burn. I'm a Black-owned business, but some people weren't about George Floyd. They were about looting, rioting. What can I get? You know, people walking out of Target with 3 and 4 or 5 televisions. You know,
so that's our reparations, Tyrone. What are you talking about?
That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
It was explained to me. It was explained to me that the looting didn't really represent them wanting to just have things. Like there was another message behind the looting this time.
There was, for some people were just angry and didn't even care, didn't even want anything. Just, you know, they wanted other people to feel the impact and pain. But some folks didn't give a damn about George Floyd. They just wanted stuff. And so there's, you know, segments of it. And then the thing that most people never knew, when the governor refused to bring out the National Guard, well, reason why is that the people out front of the marching were Black people, right? but 90% of the marchers were white and female. And so he didn't want to, mace those folks. He didn't want to put the National Guard on those folks. And so the murder was a major tragedy because a young man should not have lost his life. But again, the 5 I just talked about earlier, George Floyd, Philando Castile, Dante Wright, Jamar Clark, Boogie Winston, 5. But we had 531 black on black and over 800 people shot during the same period of time. We have about 150 young black men under the age of 25 who are paralyzed in a wheelchair from being shot. And families can't afford it. And their life expectancy maybe is 40.
Right.
So there's major impact to these shootings.
Yeah.
And some people say, well, we don't make the guns. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. If you put a gun in the windowsill, it'll rot and rust if you don't pick it up.
Yeah.
So if you don't change the mentality of our young people, some of them are so angry. The amount of anger. Spike and I walked into Cub Foods over north, that's on Broadway. He said to a brother, hey, brother, how you doing? I ain't your brother.
Just angry.
Right. And by the time we got done with it, he wanted to be our brother, but most people just kept going.
Yeah.
But his thing was, well, you ain't helping me. Why you ain't my brother? And so we have too much anger in our young people. And if we don't do something about the anger, it's going to continue. Whether it's Phoenix, whether it's Kansas City, whether it's Minneapolis, St. Paul. My hometown averages about 250 murders a year. Half of them last year were under 16.
Wow. That's crazy. That is crazy. Let's take another second here to just welcome in the people who've come in the room. What's up, Chicken Wing Dooney? It's been a while since I've seen you. Welcome back. Welcome back. You always have such good perspective to the conversation here. So I appreciate you just engaging in the conversation. Chicken Winduni says he's from Texas. He grew up in the 80s and 90s. Seeing gangs was really funny to him because mostly everybody who was in them were related, but fighting over a color, which didn't make sense to him. Yeah, that happens a lot. And then Sweet Jamaica wants to know, and we're going to get back into what you do, the work that you're doing with gang violence intervention, just there in the Twin Cities, understanding that these are things that are probably going on in most of our urban neighborhoods across the country. So wherever you live, whether it's Kansas City or Dallas or Oakland, you're probably going to be able to find an organization that has an approach to this problem that we really need to solve in the Black community. So again, thank you. So Sweet Jamaica is asking, Mr. Tyrone, can I pose a question to you? Do you believe that this aggression and anger is something that is passed down from past generations? Where is this anger coming from?
It definitely is passed down because if your father was bad to you, then you're bad to if you don't know how to be a father or you don't know how to be a mother, sometimes it's not a first generation deal. Spike and I used to do a lot of prison work, and we would go into the women's prison or the men's prison, and there would sometimes be a mother, grandmother, and daughter all in the same prison. And so it definitely is generational. There's no question about it, and can be just simply for the fact of the anger. And so a lot of times these young people are not mad at anybody, but themselves. So the work that we try to do is, and GVI really, we're part of a thing called Gang Violence Intervention out of John Jay College in New York. So it's a national program. So you could have a GVI program in every city that's doing, and it's we don't try to get them out of the gang. We would like to do that. our sole responsibility trying to keep them alive. So if I need to ship them to Chicago, I can put them on a plane right now, get them a plane ticket, and get them out of town. And so GBI's whole thing is, if you need a job, you need job readiness training. You got a job, you need boots, you need a bus card, you need a gas card. Your kid has a birthday party tomorrow. You have no money. We'll go get the gifts for you. We'll get them wrapped. We're not going to give you the money, but we'll make it where you take some pressure off of you in terms of being upset, being angry. But our whole thing with GBI and with PSN, Project Safe Neighborhoods, is to keep people alive. And because telling somebody our whole mission is to get you out of a gang, when I talk about the deposit relationship, you can't start, brother, I want you to get out of the gang. No, brother, can I keep you alive today? What can I do to keep you alive? And the more things we do for them, we bought 3 brothers boots last week, which Red Wing boots, which I didn't know was still last week, cost $400 a piece. Right.
What?
Yeah. So when you go, somebody tell you they got Red Wing boots on, they paid some money, but they worked at the XL Center. But they had a special boot that wouldn't slip and all that. But they got jobs now, and we bought them the bus cars to get to and from work, and so help them out a little bit. They need a deposit for an apartment. We'll do that. Anything that's going to help them remove some tension, some anger, and to think about something other than violence. And for them to be able to go to their son's birthday party and bring some gifts and show up, keep their cell phone turned on. So it's just about building relationships. So even if somebody goes to prison, we still do Zooms with them every week. So, because they're going to come out, and you don't want to start the relationship all over again unless they get a 25-year sentence, which then,
yeah.
some of these guys are getting a year, 18 months. And so we try and work with them to have a support system. So GBI, or Project Safe Neighborhoods, is a support system to try and help these young men navigate, and young women, this life. Can you stay alive?
Right.
And there's some, and being completely honest with this podcast, I know brother told me, brother, I was born a gangster. I'm going to die one. Leave me alone. And
Is there any helping someone like that?
No.
Or do you just say, great, and walk away?
If they're not willing to allow the deposit to take place, and some of them, they're just that angry, and they believe in the life. They have no problem being killed. They are that committed to that life. They have no problem whatsoever. And
Death is just a part of it.
I saw it Tuesday. 26-year-old dead with 4 children. His father's there. His 2 brothers are there, all with guns. So your son being murdered will not tell a father to tell your 17 and 21-year-old, put that gun down.
Yeah.
Because most people, if I got one kid dead,
how can they tell anyone to put their gun down when they all have guns?
Well, if you're not willing to put yours down, you have to stop your cycle.
Right.
Your son is laying in there. You didn't have enough money. He died in May. You know what that body probably looked like? Since May?
Yeah.
And you letting your 17 and 20-year-old come to the funeral with a gun.
And this is a problem this is the thing to me that kind of blankets every situation, is that it's our perspective about things. Like how is that still your perspective after you've lost your son? And
Part of
he's
it's the
left
anger.
for
It's the anger. You're angry. But he died in May.
right.
You've had plenty of time to vent. You had plenty of time to do whatever you want to do between that period of time. That on August 23rd, you still angry? Now, I understand going to the funeral and seeing the body and all that and the service can bring that anger back. But I'd be trying to save my 17-year-old, my 21-year-old, and your son left 4 children.
Right.
Who's going to be there for them?
Right.
You're the grandfather and you're the 2 uncles. And you're too busy getting with that, what they kept saying, the get back, the get back, the get back.
The get back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a term for everything, right? The get back. Chicken Wing Dooney says, right, accepting that their life was meant to be nothing but a waste, which is exactly what the country was designed for certain people to do. And yeah, when you don't have any respect for your own life, how do we expect for them to have respect for anyone else's life?
And that's why we have to go back to that old model of the Black community. When nationwide, if the street light came on, you knew you had to be home. I don't care if you're in LA, Chicago, Kansas City, as a nationwide program.
Street light program.
Right. I was in the country one time with my cousins, and I said, so how do y'all do it? They said, well, we see lightning bugs. I think if we see a lightning bug, we know it's too late. We ain't got no street lights, but we know we see them bugs this time. So I said, okay, y'all got bugs, we got street lights. I'm saying we have to go back. There's something that's not wrong. Calling adults by their first name. We never did that. Your parents may have had an argument, but you didn't see it.
Right.
And so there's so many things that can be considered old-fashioned. But
Yeah.
there's some of this new fashion stuff we don't need.
This new fashion stuff is we need to go back to old fashioned. I have an auntie, Tyrone, that's a year older than me. I still call her auntie.
Right.
She finally, like last year, she's like, Twana, I think we're old enough where you can stop calling me auntie.
Right.
But it's hard for me to not call her auntie because that's what she is. And I just feel like there's a certain level of respect. Even though you're only a year older than me, you're still my auntie.
And that's the word right there, is respect. If you don't teach a young person respect, if you don't teach them how to be loved, nurtured, taken care of, then they want that. So a lot of these young people are angry. They're angry.
Yeah.
And so but we have to own this.
Yeah.
If we don't own it, we don't cut the feeder group off, then the violence in Black America is going to continue. It's not going to stop.
Yeah. It will not stop.
No. We had a little boy in Humboldt High School, 5th grader. He said, my dad sent me here to recruit.
That's crazy. Listen though, Tyrone, when we have that kind of generational experience happening, because how can I say that kid is angry when it's his dad or someone that he looks up to that's guiding his steps, that's pushing him towards that life? That kid's not angry. Is it the dad that's angry?
The dad's not angry, but the dad sees his enterprise losing people. And sometime in the community, they say, well, not just you, whether you Vice, Lord, Blood, Crip, or more localized gang names. If you don't recruit 11 and 12-year-olds and get them to buy in, somebody else is going to beat you to it. So you have your young boys start telling them, If you want protection, you don't want to be beat up, you know what I'm talking about? You join up with us. And some kids need it.
Yeah.
They feel they need it for protection to be in this neighborhood. You can't be in this neighborhood. We've had young guys who need summer jobs. He said, I can't work. I can't ride the bus over there. I can't go in that area. And that's in every city.
Right.
But until we break those things down, we have to do it, and we have to own it. And we don't want to.
I just learned yesterday, or this week, that the north side is broken up into the higher and the lower. Like
anything got, if you live below Broadway, that's the lows.
That's the lows.
Right. Anything past Broadway is the highs, right?
Right. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then all I want to ask is, do you even own anything in the low or the highs? Like, do you own anything? But you've just split up this neighborhood into territories so that you can do what? And again, I don't want to knock people's hustle. I believe that we have to meet people where they are. I believe that 100%. But how do you move past people thinking that they have control over a territory when they don't even own anything? And how do we move past, just doing it for no reason to at least having a reason, build some wealth? Like, if you're going to do this, if this is your enterprise, how are you moving past the fact that now you got all these kids who are going to die or end up in jail because of your enterprise?
You hit it around the head. They don't own anything. I've even told gang members, you spend $20,000 on rims.
Say that one more time.
Spent $20,000 on rims for their car, $10,000 for their rims. You've been better off taking that $10,000, that $20,000, buying your house, and then making your boys at least rent from you. At least you own something on that high or low side of things. But they're not even doing any kind of real. Here locally, there's not that enterprise thing even happening. I could give it some respect if you were protecting an enterprise. You're just protecting an ego. And somebody disrespected me. So you kill another human being based on you believing somebody disrespected you. And again, that anger, which if you get it from home, and then you add drugs and the rest into it, you have a very violent person. And it's nationwide. It's not just Minneapolis, not just Phoenix or Kansas City or Chicago. And even when folks talk to me about policing, right? Kansas City's police force is probably 75% black. So is Atlanta, DC. So it's not just white cops. Policing is policing.
Yes.
No matter where you go.
Yeah.
But the black community needs policing more than anybody. Remove policing from our communities. I've had gang members tell me when we were going through tough times after George Floyd, brother, please don't get rid of the police. If we got nobody's going to be monitoring our behavior, think about it. They're doing these shootings and murders with police.
Yeah.
You remove the police. But I'll say it 100 times. We have to take ownership. We have to take ownership.
We do.
We've got a 100,000-pound pink elephant walking through the black community, and nobody sees it.
Say that again.
We have a 100,000-pound pink elephant walking through the black community, and nobody sees it.
Not just a regular elephant, a pink one.
No, a pink one, a big one, 100,000 pounds. And so until we start seeing that pink elephant or black elephant, whatever you want to call it, that's why I go back to what I said earlier, fix your block. Fix your block.
That's kind of, that's kind of my thing here, Tyrone. I feel like, first of all, you gotta fix yourself. Even, as we, the stories that you're telling, like that mom, she needs some healing. There is so much Black trauma that every one of us carry around, even if we weren't molested as kids, even if there is still so much Black trauma that we have. And so we need to fix ourselves, and then we need to heal our families, because until we are individually healed and healthy, we can't even deal with our families. And then once our families are healed, I feel like that's when you can move out to your block, right? You can now start working on your neighborhood, bringing neighbors back to the hood. You know what I mean? And then once we can get block by block by block, then like healing our community is just going to be second nature by then. It's just going to be that trickle down effect.
And no, and you're right, because part of one of our components is a mental health component, where we've got three young, not young, but three brothers who are pastors, but also have their academic training is in mental health psychology and those kind of things. Yeah. That we try to get these young brothers to go talk to them professionally. How can I help you deal with the pain in your life? How do I help you? And you don't even have to be a gangbanger. You could be somebody who goes to work every day and you come home angry. You come home angry.
Right.
Or you come home upset. And so a lot of times you take out what's personally happening to you and you put it on your children. And so you're 100% right. So when we talk about fix that block, it definitely starts with your own house first. You can't come out of your house,
right,
and come talk to me when your house, the roof is leaking. Don't come tell me to fix my roof. You got holes in your roof. So, but I believe we can do this.
I agree.
People ask me all the time, man, we need Dr. King. Dr. King can handle this. There ain't nothing Dr. King can do with this. There's no one Black leader.
Yeah.
That's gonna fix this. And you can probably see my picture. I love Dr. King. Everything about me, but he would struggle today. In the 60s, 50s, and 60s, it was a common goal. In racism and segregation and all that. So it was an easy buy-in across America. Getting us to buy in now is what needs to happen. We need to be our own Dr. Kings and buy in.
Exactly. I feel like you've taught me. I feel like I've learned today, because when I think about gang members and gang violence, I wonder what is it that drives it, because it seems like it's an unnecessary thing, but understanding that it's anger that drives these young men and the women, I guess.
Not just anger though, sister. It's also the need to belong. If I need a pair of shoes and you bought it for me, right? If I'm hungry and you feed me, I'm now protecting mine. So in many ways, you become my family. So it's not just anger, but you get to a point where you protect. Who's putting a roof over your head?
Yeah.
Who's feeding you? Who's protecting you?
Yeah.
Who's protecting you? So, so anger does play a role. And when I say anger, meaning that makes it easy for me to carry out hurting somebody else who wears a different color or lives on one side of a street, the high-low mentality. But a lot of it is you took care of me.
So yeah,
you got my back. You got my back.
Is that because they're not getting that same thing from their family?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's something I feel like we really need to put our finger on this, because one of the things that, my family's from Chicago. So whenever there's a police shooting of a Black man or woman, that's the first thing I hear from my family. Well, what about the Black on Black crime? Why are we not getting so upset about that? Which is one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, because I feel like our neighborhoods are filled with people who don't want to see gangs taking over their neighborhoods. But what is the solution? What do they do? How do they get their power back? How does my grandma get her power back in her community from the gangbangers that have taken over it?
Goes back to what Brother Spike said numerous times. Grandma shouldn't have to stand up. Men have to stand up in the community and deal with the young men in their community.
Where are those men going to come from, Tyrone? Because if they were there, wouldn't that already be happening?
Well, some will say, I'm scared. I'm afraid. I don't know how. But that can't be your excuse. But even if you can't deal with the ones you're dealing with right now, when I said earlier, it was an 8-year-old or 5-year-old little boy living across the street from you, build a relationship with him. When we were in D.C. for our gang summit, and Brother Raheem, daughter comes down the stairs, she's going to prom. The young man knocks on the door, come take her to prom. And Raheem been to L.A. with us, Chicago with us. He says to the young brother, okay, brother, tell me about yourself. He said, Mr. Raheem, I live across the street from you. Raheem been so busy, Brother Raheem was so busy going to Chicago, LA, Minneapolis, that he hadn't gone across the street.
He didn't go across the street.
And that boy was taking his daughter to prom.
Wow.
And so it is inherent upon us to know our neighbors, know our block.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, and this is a true story, a good friend of mine, house got broke into. She called me. I made a couple calls. Within 30 minutes, I found out who had her stuff. Within 30 minutes. And the little gangbanger said, I'm bringing him to you. The brother walked in and told me, this is your fault. It's my fault you breaking this woman's house? He said, you got enough pull in North Minneapolis to find out in 30 minutes who took your stuff. You should have told us this was a house we can't touch. He said, I live 3 doors down. He said, now you ain't got to lock your doors. He said, we got you. And you know what he did then? He put $200 on the table and walked out.
Wow.
He said, fix your door. True story.
I love that story.
So again, his point, and actually he was right, but I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah.
But you have a responsibility to know who you live with, who's your neighbor.
I agree.
You know, your kid comes home from school, misses the bus. Do they have somewhere to go? Do you have a predator on you? Somebody's a level 5 predator on your block. So you have a responsibility to know who's on your block.
Absolutely.
But as long as we operate from a mindset, it's not my kid, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
Then you can't complain when it happens to you.
Absolutely. When I was raising my kids, that was my thing. It's like, okay, so we're just always just thinking about that. Okay, my house is good. We're good right here in my house. Like we didn't have to worry about nothing else. We're eating, we're driving 2 nice cars, we're making our mortgage. We're good right here in this house. Until someone from another block comes over and crushes down the door in your house and takes all your stuff and hurts your family. Then you need to know what's going on in your whole neighborhood. It's not just about what's going on in your house. I've always believed that.
And every city has somebody they can call. If you feel like you can't deal with it, you don't want to deal with it, and everybody shouldn't deal with it. I had a guy call me last week, said, I want to come work with you. I said, brother, you just graduated from college. You can't do this. I said, you got to wear a bulletproof vest. There's a role you could play, but not this role.
Yeah.
You know, the 4 guys that work for me have all been former gang members. One of the men Spike basically raised, who understand the life. And again, we're not trying to tell somebody to get out of a gang. Can we keep you alive?
How do I keep you alive?
Right.
How do I keep you alive?
Right.
How do we keep you alive?
And we
How
do that
do we
enough.
get to the point where you want to be alive?
And there you go. See, you hit that. There, the whole goal is keep them alive as many days as we can till they want to be alive. That they want. So when they say, okay, man, tell me you want me to be out of the gang, dude, I ain't say that. How do I keep you not go kill this dude today? Just today.
Yeah.
I'll take you the best steakhouse in town. Let's go. Maybe you'll be so full you'll go home and go to sleep. But it can't be the first thing out of your mouth. It's like when people say to a young person, pull up your pants, right?
Yeah.
I never do that.
Yeah.
First of all, they wear 2 pairs of underwear, y'all. Y'all ain't never seen a dirty pair of underwear on none of these kids.
I don't want to see the clean ones either, though, Tyrone. But go ahead.
That's their. It's all it is. My son was a 3.9 student and dressed that way. You can go out to any suburban school in the Twin Cities, Bloomington, Edina. The white kids dress the same way.
Yeah.
It's a fashion.
It's fashion.
So let's deal with the behavior. And one thing I tell people all the time, 96% of our children are doing the right thing.
Right.
So even in St. Paul and Minneapolis, there's probably 300 people involved in this gang stuff. 300. Probably 100 that are active shooters.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's thousands of people doing this. But when 300 can create the kind of havoc, the kind of fear that they were indiscriminately just shoot their guns. And we have these new guns, right?
Yeah.
These ghost guns that, and I've shot 3 or 4 of them, right? They couldn't hit something with a ghost gun if they wanted to.
I didn't know that.
Oh, there's no accuracy whatsoever. And then you're driving a car and you're moving. So that's why you end up shooting up 4 and 5, 6 people who had nothing to do with it.
Had nothing to do with it.
But that gun has no stability at all. None.
And they still out there just shooting willy-nilly.
Well, because you can take a regular 9mm gun, put a kit on it, and now you can shoot 100 rounds.
Yeah. I just want to go through and read some of the comments. They haven't been highlighting them. Most of the times, the people in the chat, they're just kind of talking to each other and engaging with each other. But there are some good comments in here that I just want to read. Not your average guy. Hello. Welcome to the room. I didn't get a chance to say hi to you yet, but he's one of my favorite people that comes by on a regular basis and always has great insight and things to contribute to the conversation. So he's saying you can only blame others so long before you have to take ownership and create change. Tall Pumps went back to when you were talking about people wanting more policing, or at least not wanting less policing. But her comment is, I don't agree with that. We don't need more policing. We need equity in life's necessities, housing, education, healthcare, etc. For example, all the drug dealers in jail for weed, but what white folks figured out how to make money on the same product. Y'all know the rest. Tall Pumps always drops good nuggets too. And Just Jen responded and saying those drugs being pumped into the Black community is coming from white suppliers. In a lot of cases, the white men have already figured out how to make money on that product without putting themselves in harm's way. Follow the supply. And not your average guy says at some point you have to deal with the bully. Facts. And then, hey, Wins 2000, welcome to the room. So glad you can make it. I appreciate you being here. There was something else. Oh, so Justin, oh, I just read that. And then Tall Pumps responded, that's the whole truth. The government keeps our men medicated while they are getting paid from the street. Drugs to the methadone centers, money on the front end and the back, not to mention the continued breakdown of families. And I think we can't have a conversation about this without making sure that we understand that there is a force, there's a systematic force in this country that wants our Black men to stay where they are. They want our Black communities to remain in chaos. That's what the system wants. And so while we do work on ourselves, healing ourselves and our families, our neighborhoods, and our communities, we still need to focus on systematic change too, Tyrone. What do you say about that?
I agree. I mean, I don't think that more. If I said that, I didn't mean that we need more policing. My point was that folks in our community, when they were talking about dismantling and no police here, the vote was won over by Black. 71% of Black people said here, do not dismantle the police department.
Yeah.
Because, like I said earlier, we're the most victimized community of all. But no, policing is not the answer. And I understand these systems, but if we're not willing to blow up and break down these systems, and they're 100% right that we don't own the drug being bought into this country, we're on the real small end of it. But we have to create the culture where if there's no demand, it's going to go away. We have to, at some point in time, as a Black community, as we heal, say no to it.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with 99% of what people have said. But it's easy for us to say it's the government's fault. And don't get me wrong, the United States government has been behind everything that's happened to our people. From the first slaves that came in the 1500s to the first one that were recognized in 1619 to what's going on today. But I tell people two things did the most damage to Black people. One was Brown versus Board of Education, when we decided we wanted to go to school with the white children and get rid of the Black schools, the Black educators, the Black principals, the Black superintendents. And the other thing was the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And I don't blame Dr. King and all the architects. But when you talk about National Black Business Month, we had way more Black businesses in the 60s and 50s because before integration, we were happy to go to the Black movie theater, to the Black barbershop, to the Black restaurant.
Yes.
But
we relied on each other.
Right. But when we want to break down that white water fountain sign, no colors can't drink from this water fountain, that we lost the economic stability, the cultural stability. We don't even want to go to Black churches. We want a mega church full of everybody. So we lost. If you go back to Brown versus Board of Education, because they only took the Black students.
Right. Only the smart ones.
Right. And they didn't take the Black teachers, the janitors, the cooks, all lost their jobs.
Yeah.
And so those things play a significant role in the amount of Black folk. But there's always going to be government folks that do stuff to us. What do we do? When you said earlier, we spend 1.3 trillion.
Yes.
Who do we spend it? Who do we spend it with?
Not each other.
Who do we spend it with? An old man here named John James used to always say something, that the white man's ice is colder than ours.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Well, if you get taught time and time again in a white educational system about somebody else's history, somebody else's culture, you buy into that. You don't buy into taking care of your own community. You don't buy into doing what's right for your people.
Yeah.
And we need to do that. So the systems are there, but we need to blow those up.
Yeah.
We need to take responsibility for our young children. Even if we can't do anything with somebody that's 21 years old now, what about the 5-year-old, the 6-year-old that you can have an influence in?
Right.
Because if you don't cut that feeder group off, these murders will continue. Long after I'm gone, they're going to still be gang members doing what they're doing now if we don't make a decision as a community to stop it. If you only save one person in your own family, is there somebody in your family right now that's on that path right now? Then stop it. Don't wait till the funeral. Don't wait till you standing there. Because when I tell people all the thing about, the thing I hate the most about funerals is this: when people stand up and say to the family, "If you need anything, call me." That means you don't want to do nothing.
Right. That's true.
Right. And very few people ever call that family again. But we do it at the funeral. Well, how do we help the next person, family, not being in that same situation? How can we help?
Yeah.
And if you don't feel you can do it, find somebody who can.
Right.
Find somebody.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing this long enough. It's 10 times easier talking to an 8-9-year-old than a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
And if you invest enough time in that young person, whether getting them on a sports team, going to their games. We had a young brother here that's an 8th grade hockey player. Went to a game and people were calling him nigger at the game. We took 20 brothers to the next game against the same team. Not a word was said. He had to skate over to the ice and bang on it with his stick because he knew he had support there. So there's little things that you can do.
Yeah.
Little things that you can do.
Yes.
Let that young person next door to you know, I'm going to be there for you. And the biggest, don't disappoint. I'll tell you this in a minute. Don't do the engagement if you're not in there for the long haul. Because I said earlier, it's a deposit relationship. So you have to really make deposits with that young person.
Yeah.
Before you make any withdrawals. And you make those deposits, you can save one.
Yeah.
If everybody decides to save one child.
Right.
Again, my sister was pregnant at 15. And I remember telling my mother, now I can't go to college. My mother said, you still going. I'm going to take the baby and raise him. But in 4 years on this day, you're going to come get this baby with a job and an apartment. My sister still went on to be a vice president of an insurance company. Because my mother and her and my aunts, the village stepped in and helped. We have to have more of that saying it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
Then do it.
Yeah.
But none of these individuals are born with a pistol in their hand.
Or hate or anger or any of the other things.
Exactly.
That cultivate. But if you make that deposit, I love that. I love it. If you just make that deposit of love and support and appreciation and acceptance into the kids in your family, even when you know maybe, because we know our families, we know which cousins are out there that really, and we know which uncles or which aunts, we know the kids in our family that needs our support. So just making those deposits, because we're running out of time here. I've had you on here for so much, but I wanted to talk about the document that you sent me about how you can tell if there are people in gangs in your family. But I wanted to go back because Tall Pumps had something in here that everyone was agreeing with, and I just wanted to read that out loud.
Yeah.
Tall Pump says, I'm from Chicago, and the original gang here, El Rookins, is where most social services got their ideas from. After school programs, food pantries, etc. The gangs had a code for family. But as history has shown us, once we do for self and grow, the systems are burned down. And I know when we were just talking about this, Tyrone, I mentioned the Black Panther, the Black Panthers, and how people, my mom considered them gangs. Like my mom considered them gangbangers, but they were not that. They were there to support the community. But as soon as we do things to help support ourselves, they're burned down, right? Tall pumps. I love it. And it's still happening every
But
day.
they get burnt down because we let it happen. Because the Panthers were just that: protect our Black community, protect our women, protect our children, feed our children, educate our children. And that's what they were created for. That's what they were about. Even the Crips, that's what they were about initially. Initially it was about community. So many of our gangs started out as protectors and then got into other stuff. But no, we can do this. We just can't keep saying we don't want to do it. We're afraid to do it. And everybody can't do it. But you can find somebody in your community who's willing to help save a young man or a young woman. And all of us know some young girl right now who probably got a baby at 14, 15, 16 years old. What are we doing? She is not a mother. I don't care how much you love that baby.
Right.
She is not a mother.
She's a kid.
She still wants to go roller skating. She still wants to hang out. She wants to go to the mall. I've seen girls bring babies in a stroller to a fight, hold the baby with one hand, and fight with the other one.
I've seen those videos.
I've seen it live and in person. That is not a mother. And so, and again, the young man who's got 5, 6 babies already at 16, he's got no money. He can't take care of those kids. They'll be in first grade and he'll be 20. He'll be 20 years old with 5 or 6 kids going to school. So if we don't help and interject ourselves.
Yeah.
Or if I say to everybody who's on this podcast, can you save one child? Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 10.
Just one.
One.
Just one.
In your family.
Yes.
Because
that's all we need. Just one.
A concentrated effort.
Yes.
To keep one more young man, young woman from being killed or put into a path of no return.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's really quick talk about just that document. And as you're reading it, you're like, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But there has to be a reason why you created this document, the top 10 things.
I created it in 2004 after a number of killings. And then a couple killings were done by some gang members I'd done work with. And I had a mother tell me, well, my kid's just hanging out. He's not a gang member. Ma'am, in St. Paul, Minneapolis, if your kid's seen 3 times with that same gang, you become a person of interest. If they're coming to your house more than 3 times, your house is a place of interest. And so people started saying, well, I didn't know. And so I wrote this letter in 2004, giving all gang members I knew at the time. I gave it to like June 19th, 2004, either get out of the gang or don't call me anymore. And so it was part of that letter. And then I said, here's 10 things from if your kid's doing poorly in school, if your kid has shoes and things that you didn't buy, if your kid's staying out past 10 p.m., no child in high school should be not home at 10 p.m. Nothing good happens in the streets of any major city after 10 p.m. Unless they're coming from work, from a sporting event or a job, they should be coming home. Yep. And so really to give people some things they could check off and see and know, is my kid doing any of these things? Do I know my kids' friends who they're hanging out with? There's been too many kids here in St. Paul and Minneapolis who've been shot. The mother said he was just riding with them. Your son shouldn't be riding with gangbangers.
Right?
It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Your son should not be out. And
Yeah.
so it's really just to help those individuals who not so much being naive, but said they didn't know. So here's 10 things. It doesn't mean um, it's 10 things that is everything, but it's a starter for you to look at and say, why does my kid have 3 pair of brand new tennis shoes? I didn't buy them. And they cost $200 a piece. Who paid for them?
Right.
Are there guns in your house? You know? So just to give people an opportunity to say, and it was more about me. And some folks here locally took offense to the letter and to the 10 things. Because when I called our young men terrorists, that they're terrorizing our community. And some folks said, well, don't do that.
That's what they are.
If a grandmother can't sit on her porch
Yes.
and she has to sleep in her bathtub, you sleep in your bathtub. A young girl can't do her homework because a bullet came through the window and killed her.
Yeah.
A girl jumped on a trampoline at a birthday party, gets shot in the head. So if that's not terrorizing our community, from Juneteenth events are now gone. They used to sometimes, sister, we have 25 to 30,000 people.
It's always someone killed at Juneteenth. At
Right.
least one person.
Yes. And so you are terrorizing our community. So we have to take ownership. So that's what the 10 things says your child is possibly or potentially going to be a gangbanger.
Yeah.
Is telling folks, take a look. Know your children. Know their friends. First name, last name, birthday. Know their parents. Otherwise, it's too late once something happens.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. Nothing good. One thing Minister Farrakhan taught us years ago. Nothing happen good after dark.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Absolutely.
And so young people need to be home, being loved, nurtured, doing homework, getting ready to go to school, and being part of a family.
Yeah.
And so again, I urge everybody on here, save one of our babies. And it's making a deposit in that child's life. He may be 8-year-old now, and it can happen. I had a young man, I was his big brother when he turned 7. He's 48 now. And his son now is in my group at 13. And his son told me, I'm going to run this group in 5 years. So I'm just telling you, the reward is not a sprint, though. This is a marathon.
It's a marathon.
So if you get in this business and get involved with a child, I'm telling you, you can save one.
Yeah.
But the first 3 to 6, 9 months will be difficult.
Yeah.
Because they're used to everybody failing them. They're used to everybody not keeping their word. And I'll tell a quick story. We're in Chicago for a gang summit. A kid meets his father for the first time. His father looks at his hand and says, son, I love that ring. He said, Daddy, you can have it. Took it off. Gave it to his father. Never saw him again. You know what he told me? Brother Tyrone, next time I see him, I'm killing him.
What?
He said, all he wanted was my ring. He wanted nothing to do with me. Exactly what he said.
Wow.
So what that dad did with all the anger and stuff he had before about his father not being in his life, the first thing you come to me and say, can I have a ring? And I give it to you. I couldn't believe he gave it to him.
Right.
I used to tease him. Dude, let me have the ring. No. He gave it to his dad in a matter of 2 seconds.
That's awesome. Not the first part was awesome, not the second part. But I feel like there was one more comment from Tall Pumps that kind of brings this point that you just made. She says, can we address why our young men turn to gangs for family connection? did these men that created these children magically disappear? And I feel like the answer is it wasn't magically, but yeah.
They didn't magically know. Some ended up being incarcerated, yes, but some end up with 3 and 4 and 5 babies. And so I'm not in this household. And too many brothers told me, brother, if I'm not in the house, if I can't lay in her bed with her, that kid's her problem, which is a sick mentality.
Yes, it is.
For us to have, because again, divorce the woman in your relationship with the woman, but love your child.
Yeah.
I had a thing where a brother in a class asked me, did I ever think about, I said, brother, because my child support at one time was $2,400 a month for 3 kids. He said, brother, I know you want to kill her. I said, no, dude, I ain't killing the mother of my children. I just can't buy 4 and 5 suits a month now. I can't. But I want my children to live the same way they lived when I was with their mother. Well, nobody's going to love your children more than the father and the mother.
Damn.
So you still got to always be there no matter what happens with the relationship. Love your children.
Yes.
And we do that, we got a chance. But as long as we don't love our children, and not just your biological children, we have to love all children.
Yeah.
I tell all the basketball coaches in St. Paul and Minneapolis, I don't care if you don't win a game, but you've got 45 boys who look up to you. Every coach has 45 to 50 boys who love them. So you're saving children. Go 0-32, I don't care.
Right.
Keep doing what you're doing with those young men in terms of discipline, love, and being there for them. But I'll say to anybody on this call, do not engage a young person and then quit on them. Do not do that, because they're used to that and they will never stop blaming you.
Yeah. Agreed. Oh my goodness.
I don't know how you do it, sis, but if you want to give my cell phone, my number, and email these folks, is fine. Anybody can help or connect them with a resource similar to ours in their city, because there's a GVI, gang violence intervention, from LA to New York.
Okay. Hold on, because I want to put this stuff in here. Tyrone, your phone number is...
Oh, let me give you the right one. 612.
651 or 612?
The 612 one. This is a different one.
All right. 612.
468.
468.
3811.
3811. All right. So I got your phone number in the chat. So let's get your email address now.
Send it to the TT 830
at Gmail, right?
No, that's Comcast. At Comcast, that's the better one.
TT 830 at Comcast.
.net.
.net.
But anything I can do to connect them with folks that do the same work, or we can help it all, we'd be glad to. But my point is make an effort to save one of our children. Make an effort to save somebody. It will be one of the greatest rewards that you will ever get. In some ways, more so than your own children, because you expect it from your own children.
Yeah.
But to save somebody else's child, because they all are. They may not biologically be ours, but they all are.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I always like to end my podcast just asking you some rapid fire questions, because
all right.
We've been very deep in the conversation about gangland and community, but I do just have some random questions that I like to ask and end the show with. So the first one is, what would you be doing if you weren't doing the work that you're doing now? What's your other passion?
Working on my tennis game.
Oh, I should have known that already.
Right. I'd play all day long every day.
Yeah. You'd be like, what's Serena's dad? I don't know why I can't remember the Williams.
Richard Williams.
Richard Williams. And then all your babies will be playing tennis.
They all play. My grandchildren are playing right now. It's mandatory to be in this family.
I've just gotten into racquetball because I think that it's better than tennis because I don't have to chase after the balls. They just kind of
Well,
stay right there with
we
me.
say racquetball is good for non-athletes.
Whatever. Whatever. Okay, so next question. Name one thing you would do if money was of no concern.
Help some of these families. I would give every mother. She still have to go to work 40 hours a week, but if she's only making $30,000 a year and she needs 60, I'd give her the balance to take care of her family.
That's awesome. I love that. I always like when I ask that question and the answer is always to be of service to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
What are you most grateful for right now?
That my children and grandchildren are healthy and all doing well. That I've been blessed to have children that are doing really great things, and they're giving back. They're giving back. So
Yeah, that's good. And DJ D man, welcome. I forgot to say hello to you today. And his comment was, "LOL, you can lose an eye in racquetball." But we have goggles.
well, no, I had surgery 2 years ago from a tennis ball. So yeah.
So you can lose an eye in tennis too. But I wear goggles, so I don't have to worry about losing an eye playing
Right.
racquetball. All right, next question for you, sir. If this were the last day of your life, how would you live it?
Listening to live music.
Live music.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do it 4 or 5 times a week now.
Because I mean, the Twin Cities is such a great place for live music. I don't know that people, we think of Prince always when you're thinking of, the Twin Cities, or even like Jimmy and Terry because of Janet. But there's some great, great music there.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I went to a thing last week with my daughter, actually, and this sister was brilliant.
What was her name?
She had a funny name. I can't even think of it, but
no worries.
But it was in a warehouse in Northeast Minneapolis, and it was absolutely amazing.
There's so many amazing artists there.
Right.
So many. Yeah. Love it. Okay, two more questions.
Yeah.
Do you believe America can reach its full potential?
Not until America owns up to one thing. Mahmoud Al-Kati, who's as you know, a known professor here, says, how great would America have been if they came here and did what they did to the indigenous people? If there hadn't been slavery and the Civil War and all that, and then the whole civil rights era. So if America, but when white people sometimes say we're lazy, right? You're the laziest people ever because you didn't do no work and built wealth off the backs of other people. And so until America owns its civil rights and human rights violations, America's never going to be a great country.
Yeah. Agreed. Mm-hmm. Agreed. All right. So that was really it for.
Oh, and there one more?
Well, there's one more.
Well, I like this.
And I just want you to end, but I feel like you've done such a great job kind of talking to the audience today. But the last question really is that here is your parting message to the audience. What do you want to leave them with today?
Save that one child. If you save one, because what happens with most people, it can become contagious. When you save one, you want to save a second one. And then if you do it long enough, they'll come back and tell you, I'm saving somebody now. And so save one of these young children. And it's much easier, I'll say it again, at 5, 6, 7 years old than at 18, 19, 20, because they've had 18 years of believing what they believe. And so for you to break that down, dismantle that, and rebuild that, and that's why we talk about with GVI and with Project Safe Neighborhoods, I'm not telling you to get out of the game. Can I keep you alive?
Yeah.
What can I do right now to keep you alive? I'll send you and your woman and your 2 kids to Duluth, Minnesota in a hotel for 3 days. so you can calm down and do what's next. But so it's really about that. And then if you save them one day, then 2 days, then 3 days, they'll start calling you.
Yes.
But just don't expect something from day one.
Right.
I tell people all the time, you'll get a dog, a puppy, and you'll take months to train that puppy. They can do stuff on your couch, the floor, anywhere, and you okay. Well, but I'm saying take the same amount of time to save a young person. Take the same amount of time, the same passion, same love that you would give a pet.
Yeah.
To a human being. Just don't expect them to do it all in one day.
Yes.
Doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. But if you take the time and make the deposits in that relationship of life, you'll get the most amazing return on your investment, is what I would say.
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't want to let you go. I would normally say bye to you, but I just want to wrap up the conversation. It's not going to be as long as I normally do at the end of my show, but I just want to let everyone know to join us next week. Carolyn Davis is going to be with us talking about unpacking our lives. And I feel like she put it so succinctly to me when we were talking about it, because we always, Erykah Badu made it very famous about all the baggage we carry around. You're going to make people run away from you if you have too much baggage in your life. So Carolyn Davis is coming with us next week, and she's going to really show us how to unpack our baggage. And she approaches this conversation from a spiritual point of view. So we're going to talk about spirituality, self-awareness, self-reflection, and really just talking about simple ways that we can start unpacking our baggage, because we have to heal ourselves before we can do anything towards healing our family. So I just want to make sure that you guys know what's coming up next week. I also want to have the conversation with my audience. And I really haven't had this conversation yet. But on September 8th, I am scheduled for surgery. I have been diagnosed with breast cancer. So September 8th is my first surgery to remove the breast tissue. And then there's some time and healing to go before I do the next part of the reconstruction. So September 8th is the day of my surgery. I am still planning on having my show September 10th because I have an awesome guy coming on. Don't laugh at me, Tyrone, because you know how I am.
You need to take care of yourself, sister.
All I got to do is sit here and have a conversation. So I just figure I can do that. But I have Freddie Coleman on September 10th. And it's not easy to just reschedule with someone like him. So what I want to do is make sure that I can stay here, be here and do that show. But I do appreciate the people who support me. All the folks that are here really give me so much love and support. And I just want to ask you to keep, during this time for me, keep me in your thoughts and your prayers. Give me all that positive energy. I know that God's got me. I'm not worried about this at all. But knowing that, y'all are out there praying for me and rooting for me is always great. And since I have DJ D-Man on here, he actually asked me to be part of his Beats for a Cure this year in October. So I'm planning on doing that because he's raised hella money for breast cancer awareness through his Beats for a Cure. And Tyrone, I already have my surgeon. He already agreed to come on and have a conversation with me during that day. So I'm working on getting everybody else to join too. So it's going to be a really awesome show. All right, y'all. So again, thank you so much. Tyrone, I don't want you to hang up.
Okay.
Because I want to have a little bit of conversation afterwards with you. But as you know, we are going to roll out to someone else. So let's see who we're going to roll out to. Oh, DJ, let's see. Who do we want? Do we want Trump to DJ today, you guys? Or DJ Bison? Put it in the chat who you want to go and see. Yes, Sweet Jamaica. Oh, and DJ Chanel B. She's my Woman Crush Wednesday DJ. Hey, Chanel. Nice to see you in the room. All right, so we've got our raid message up. Who y'all want to go see? Twomp the DJ, you feel like music in your life right now? DJ Jin Jin, Ghost Boogie's up, Ghost Station's up. Who y'all? Oh, Faizan, thank you, Just Jen. All right, we're just going to go ahead and go out to him then. And again, thank you so much, Tyrone. You were an awesome guest. Thank you so much to everyone who was in the room. You were amazing. You kept the conversation going. And I appreciate y'all always taking the time out on a Saturday afternoon to come hang out with me. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I appreciate you. All right, Sweet Jamaica, all of my wonderful mods. Sweet Jamaica, you're the only one I've seen do any work today, but I'm still going to say what's up to Jazzy Mimi and Resh in the Flesh, who kind of looks over the YouTube channel. But yes, thank you, DJ D-Man. All right, we're going to raid out now. Thank you again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. All right, so we're raiding out. Officially raided. I'm going to stop this stream here because I didn't do that last week, Tyrone. And I had like a whole conversation with my cousin.
That was being live streamed, dog.
All right, we're shutting it down at YouTube and Twitter. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. We'll see you next week.